Yes, so very good evening my dear students. So today I am going to start with the last topic of this chapter, which is called movement and locomotion. Just have a look. And that is, we are going to start with the joints. So last day what we have completed? We have completed about the bones. We have completed about the bones. We have completed about the skeletal system. That means how many bones are there in total. We have got 206 bones, if you remember. We have talked about that we have got 206 bones in our body. Now we can classify the skeletal system into two. One is called appendicular and the one is called axial. Now axial means those bones which are present in our main axis. So it includes what? It includes head, it includes thorax, it includes the vertebral column. So head contains 29 bones, vertebral column contains 26 bones, and thorax contains 25 bones. These three together makes 80 bones under axial skeletal system. So when we talk about appendicular means if this is the axis, main axis, all the bones will come in 90 degrees to this axis. So what comes over here is a girdle. The comes is girdle. So for our hand, it is going to be pectoral girdle. For our legs, it's going to be pelvic girdle. It's going to be pelvic girdle. And then we have got limbs, that is forelimbs and hind limbs. So in together, the pectoral girdle contains total 6 bones. Sorry, pectoral girdle contains 2 bones. एक clavicle है, एक scapula है. One is clavicle and the one is scapula. For one hand, for other two, for other hand, other two. So total 4 bones are there in pectoral girdle. And when we talk about pelvic girdle, there are ilium, ischium and pubis. Ilium, ischium and pubis. Ilium, ischium and pubis. And these 3, ilium, ischium and pubis, for one particular leg there is only 1 bone, and for other leg there is another bone. So pelvic girdle, how many bones are there? 2 bones are there. So 4 plus 2, in girdle we have got 6 bones. In girdle we have got 6 bones. Any issues with this? Great. So in 6 bones over there, and for limbs, for hands, we have got humerus, then we have got radius ulna, we have got carpals, 8 of the carpals, 5 of the metacarpal, and then 14 phalanges. It includes what? 30 bones are there in hand. And in legs, we have got femur, 1 femur, tibia fibula, then tarsals, 7 of them are tarsals, 5 metatarsals, and 14 phalanges. So this part we have already covered, and another one which we left is patella. So it includes 30 bones for one leg, 60, total 60 bones. So we have already completed in the last very class about the number of bones in our skeletal system. Even in the last very class, if you remember, we have already covered about the internal tissues, the bony section. We have seen the section of the bones. Today we are concerned with joints. So what are joints? So let us start with today's class. We are going to start with the topic on joints. Joints. We'll talk about joints. So what are joints? What are joints? So when we talk about joints, what is the study of joints? First, the study of joint is called arthrology. The study of joint is called arthrology. The term arthro has come from joints, and that's why we know that the phylum Arthropoda, they have got poda means legs and arthro means jointed. So jointed legs is Arthropoda. So arthrology is the study of joint. And what is a joint? Joint is nothing but it's a point of articulation. It is a point of articulation. It is a point of articulation between. It is a point of articulation between 2 bones. It is a point of articulation between 2 bones. It's called joints. So we can classify joints into many different types. Into 3 types mainly. What are those? Varun, tell me. We can classify joints broadly into 3 categories. Tell me the category. The first category is what? The first category is fixed joint. That is immovable joints. Fixed joints, which are also called as immovable joints. Immovable joints. We can also call it as fibrous joints. Because what is present over there? Fibers are present, which are going to make it what? Fibrous joints are going to make it completely fixed. So it's called fixed joint or fibrous joints. So when we talk about this one, the second one is called cartilaginous joint. Cartilaginous joints, because they have got A slightly movable. So they are slightly movable joint. There are slightly movable joints. Okay. They are slightly movable joints. And the third one is freely movable joint. Freely movable joints. Freely movable joints. And we can also call it as synovial joints. Synovial joints. Now where from the term synovial has come? Varun, tell me. Where from the term synovial has come? Synovial has come from the term synovial cavity, synovial fluid. Synovial fluid. You can also call it as a cavity, but synovial fluid. Synovial fluid. Fine. Now let us get into this. Fixed joint. So what is the best example of fixed joint? The best example, you know, they are also called as sutura. They are also called as sutura. Why? Because in the skull bone, if this is a skull bone, can you see the structures? These are the projected structures. This is another bone. So one bone is connected with the other, and these structures are called sutures. And that's why we call it as a sutura. So what is the best example of fixed joint? The best example is skull bones. How many bones are there in skull? Ritam, tell me. How many bones are there in skull? There are 8 bones in skull. One frontal, temporal, parietal, occipital, ethmoid, and sphenoid. So total 8 bones are there. So 2 of the temporal, 2 of the parietal. Okay? So 8 bones are there, and 8 bones, they are completely fixed among themselves. So that is very, very important. So they are made up of what? They are made up of collagen, fibrous structures. That means fibrous means they have got white fibers called collagen. When we talk about cartilaginous or slightly movable joint, that means we are going to talk about slightly movable joint. Think about if this is the sternum, this is the breastbone called sternum, and this is the backbone. This is T1, T2, T3, T4. So from here it is T1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So T12. So T1 to T12, thoracic vertebral column. So thoracic part of the vertebral column. We know from each one of them, one particular pair of ribs comes out. So from this T1, a pair of ribs comes and joins with the sternum. And what is there inside? It covers what? It covers the internal organs like lungs. That is the main function of bone, is to protect the organs. Its main function is to protect the internal organs like lungs. So this particular rib, we start from thoracic vertebral column and joins straight away with the sternum. We call this as a true ribs. Now think about it. How many true ribs are there? We know 7 pairs. Last day we have talked about that. 7 pairs of true ribs are there. 3 pairs are false ribs and 2 pairs are floating ribs. Now these ribs, the moment they are going to connect, because the moment the bone connects with another bone, that point is called joint. We know that. Just now by the definition of joint we have understood that what is joint? It is nothing but the point of articulation between 2 bones. Now in that case, this particular bone, if it would have been completely attached with it, अगर ये completely attached रहता, fixed रहता, तो क्या आप inhale कर पाते? Inhale नहीं कर पाते, क्योंकि lungs को क्या करना पड़ेगा? Inflate करना पड़ेगा. So lungs inflate करेगा, जब सांस ले रहे हो आप, तो वो कहाँ पे धक्का मार रहा है? वो ribs पे धक्का मार रहा है. तो ribs यहाँ पे sternum के साथ किस तरह से move करता है? Slightly movable है. It's not fixed over here. So this point is not fixed. This is slightly movable. So what is the best example of slightly movable joint? The example is between ribs and sternum. Between ribs and sternum is the best example of what? Slightly movable joint. Very good. Then another example we can consider, the slightly movable joint, is about pubic symphysis. Think about it. This is pubic symphysis. Remember last day also we have talked about this. ये ilium ischium pubis है. This is ilium. This is ischium. So okay. So this is pubic symphysis. This is the head of the femur. Think about it. This is what is the cavity? Varun, tell me. What is the cavity called? What is this cavity? acetabulum cavity. What is this cavity called? Acetabulum cavity. It contains a fluid. Tell me the name of the fluid. Good. It's a freely movable joint, synovial fluid. Okay. Now they have got cartilage at the tip of the long bone. They have got cartilage. And this is ball and socket joint. You know this ball and socket joint because it can move freely, and there is synovial fluid present over here. So this part is ilium, ischium, pubis. Again, for this particular leg, this is again femur. This is the acetabulum cavity, ilium, ischium, pubis. But what about this? Think about this pubic symphysis. Pubic symphysis, or between two pelvic girdle, the joint is slightly movable. Otherwise, आप पैदल वॉक नहीं कर सकते थे, आप दौड़ नहीं पाओगे. So these are the problems that will happen. So अगर ये फिक्स रहता, if this would have been fixed, आपको क्या करना होता? हॉप करना होता मैडनेक की तरह, फ्रॉक की तरह. बोलो समझ में आया क्या? So they are slightly movable. So the next example is pubic symphysis, or the point of connection between two pelvic girdle is also an example of it. And the example you can consider this to be as gomphosis. क्या है? Gomphosis. What is gomphosis? This is also called as peg and socket joint. Peg and socket joint. Peg and socket joint. Now, this is a peg and this is a glass. This is a glass. Okay? This is a glass. Now, सोचो इसके अंदर अगर मैं एक teeth को रख देता हूँ. I am keeping one teeth over here. This teeth can freely move in this particular glass. So ये तो freely movable हो जाएगा ना अगर ऐसा इतना जगह मिल जाएगा उसको. पर if the same teeth is present over here, बोलो क्या होगा? Slightly movable होगा. Now, peg and socket joint is the joint between teeth and your jawbone. The teeth remain embedded where? Inside the socket. So the teeth remain embedded inside the socket. And अगर आप अभी इसको पकड़ के आपके teeth को पकड़ के थोड़ा हिलाओगे तो ये भी हिलेगा. Slightly movable है. Otherwise it's called as gomphosis. क्या कहते हैं इसको? Gomphosis. Any issues? So we got the example, 3 examples of slightly movable joint. Number 1, between ribs and sternum. Number 2, pubic symphysis, that is the gap between the two, the joints between two pelvic girdle. And the third one is about gomphosis, or peg and socket joint, that is teeth and socket joint. Teeth and socket joint. So when we talk about freely movable joint, freely movable joint, तो freely movable joint में क्या देखना है? Freely movable joint में we are going to talk about many of them. Like we can go on and on. बहुत सारे हैं. Example, ball and socket joint. क्या देखेंगे? Ball and socket joint. So ball and socket. अगर ये head है किसी bone का, if this is the head and this is the head, and this head is connected with a socket. अगर हाथ है ये, if this bone is humerus. If this is humerus, tell me what is this cavity in the pectoral girdle? Glenoid cavity. Last day we discussed about that. It is called as glenoid cavity. अगर ये humerus bone है आपका, हाथ का bone है, if this is your bone of your humerus, and this is the head of the humerus, so ये जो pectoral girdle है, what is the cavity? The cavity is glenoid cavity. And inside glenoid cavity there is a fluid which is called synovial fluid, which is called synovial fluid. Any issues with this? Come on. समझ में आया कि नहीं है? Ball and socket joint का example क्या है? Ball and socket joint का example is again कितने सारे ball and socket joint है? यहाँ पे 2 और pelvic girdle 2. Total 4 ball and socket joints are there. It's a freely movable joint. Now there is another socket, another joint which we call it as another joint. इसका भाई है. क्या है? इसका भाई. We call it diminutive. Ball and socket joint. Ball and socket joint. Diminutive ball and socket joint. Diminutive ball and socket joint. What is that? देखो ये तो freely movable है. This hand is freely movable. वो ball यहाँ पे glenoid cavity में synovial fluid है, so कोई आवाज़ नहीं आ रहा है. पर अगर synovial fluid घट गया और जो cartilage है वो घिस गया, आवाज़ आएगा नहीं आएगा? आवाज़ आएगा नहीं आएगा? उसका बहुत अच्छा नाम है. क्या बोलो? That is a bone disorder. Tell me what is that condition called? और यही अगर घुटनों में होता है तो क्या होगा? क्या बोलोगे इसको? Osteoarthritis. क्या बोलोगे? Osteoarthritis. Arthritis बहुत सारे हैं. Gouty arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis. Gouty arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis और osteoarthritis. We will talk about that. पर अगर ये फ्रीली मूवेबल है, अब यहाँ पे एक काम करे, ये फ्रीली मूवेबल है, एक काम करे इसको रोके और इसको सिर्फ थंब को ऐसे हिलाए, बोलो ये क्या फ्रीली मूवेबल है? डू द सेम करो, ये फ्रीली मूवेबल है? इज योर थंब इज फ्रीली मूवेबल? ना कहीं भटक जा रहा है, इट इज हैविंग सम रिस्ट्रिक्शंस, इट इज हैविंग सम रेजिस्टेंस की होच्छे नहीं हो रहा है। तो ये हो गया दिस पर्टिकुलर जॉइंट। व्हाट इज द जॉइंट? दिस इज कार्पल एंड दिस इज मेटाकार्पल। सो बिटवीन मेटाकार्पल एंड कार्पल ये जो जॉइंट है ये फ्रीली मूवेबल नहीं है। तो इसका छोटा भाई हो गया ना, ये देखो छोटा भाई हो गया, यानी छोटा भाई का नाम क्या है? ये कौन सा जॉइंट होगा? डिमिनिटिव बॉन्ड जॉइंट। एग्जांपल इज बिटवीन कार्पल एंड मेटाकार्पल, बिटवीन कार्पल एंड मेटाकार्पल। बोलो समझ में आया? कार्पल एंड मेटाकार्पल, बिटवीन कार्पल एंड मेटाकार्पल, डिमिनिटिव बॉन्ड जॉइंट। नेक्स्ट इज पाइवोट जॉइंट। पाइवोट जॉइंट, बोलो पाइवोट। आपकी बॉडी में पाइवोट जॉइंट कहाँ पे है? बहुत जगह पे है, बट मेनली वी हैव टू कंसीडर अबाउट योर हेड। यू कैन मूव योर हेड ऑन अ सिंगल पॉइंट। दिस होल skull is fixed with the first vertebral column called cervical vertebral column. Cervical. What is the name of cervical bone? The first cervical bone is called C1. अगर ये C1 है, this is C1. The C1 is called atlas, and it is attached with your skull. And this is C2. This is another bone, C2. And this C2 is called, come on, who will tell me? C2 is axis. So this particular atlas, which is having some facet, along with these two facets, they are going to bind with the C2 structures. These two facets are called dicondylic skull. क्या कहते हैं? हमारे skull क्या है? Dicondylic skull है. And that is why ये दो पॉइंट में टच कर रहा है, इसलिए we can move our head in this direction only, और पीछे नहीं जाएगा। We can move like this. गलत समझ में आया क्या? अगर मोनोकॉन्डाइलिक स्कल रहता तो पूरा घुमा सकते थे हमारा हेड, like in case of birds, like in owl, you have seen they can turn around the head and close to 360 degree. So ये जो है डाइकॉन्डाइलिक स्कल के कारण, so ये एटलस और एक्सिस ये तो पाइवटिंग कर रहा है एक जगह पे। The head is pivoting on one single point, and this is called pivot. One example of pivot joint is between atlas and axis, that is C1 and C2. This is a pivot joint. This is a pivot joint. Clear? Next, pivot के बाद hinge joint क्या है? This is hinge joint. What is hinge? Hinge जानते हो, एक जगह पे जाकर रुक जाता है, जैसे ये elbow, ये रेडियस एंड बिटवीन ह्यूमरस, ये जाकर यहाँ पे अटक गया, ये तो नीचे नहीं जाएगा ना। थिंक अबाउट योर नी जॉइंट, ये यहाँ पे खुल गया यहाँ पे और ये अटक गया यहाँ पे। सो नी एंड एल्बो, एग्जाम्पल ऑफ हिंज जॉइंट। एल्बो एंड नी, एग्जाम्पल ऑफ हिंज जॉइंट। देन कम्स एंगुलर जॉइंट। Angular joint, it is making an angle. Say for example this is making an angle. Think about it, it's making an angle. Tell me, this movement is between, what is the point of articulation? यहाँ पे कौन सा point है articulation का? Radius ulna and carpals. Radius ulna and carpals, they are articulating. So between and making an angle between radius ulna and carpals. And carpals is angular joint. पैरों के लिए देखो, पैर में ऐसे कर सकते हो आप, you can also make an angle. देखो, you can between tibia fibula and tarsals. Rhythm, how many bones are there in tarsals? 7 bone. In carpal 8 bone. So ये था angular joint. Now let's get into some of the examples like this. ये प्लेन जॉइंट है. व्हाट इज दिस जॉइंट? दिस जॉइंट इज प्लेन जॉइंट. सो बेसिकली देखो कितने सारे जॉइंट हो सकते हैं. हाउ मेनी जॉइंट्स कैन बी you can have? See, this is your pectoral girdle, this is your pectoral girdle. ये देखो, this is the head of the humerus. I want you to tell me, what is this bone? Scapula. Tell me, last day we talked about, here is a process. This is one of the process, this is another process. Tell me the process name. This is coracoid. This is coracoid process of scapula. Tell me, what is this process? Acromion process of scapula. Acromion process of scapula. This acromion process of scapula. কথা হবে না, ক্লাস হবে, আমি ক্লাসে আছি, হবে না। হ্যাঁ রোববার না, আমি ফোন করবো, আমি ক্লাসে আছি। Yes, this is acromion process, is coracoid process. Clear? This is what? What is this? This is cartilage, and this is the head of the humerus. This is humerus bone. Head of the humerus bone. What is written over here? F. And what is F? What is F? What is F? This F is what? This is the cartilage. This is cartilage. This is cartilage. Okay. Multi-axial. ये आपके लेवल का नहीं है, ये जब डॉक्टर बनोगे तो ऐसा लेवल आ जाएगा। This is multi-axial. Now what is multi-axial? What is multi-axial? What is multi-axial? Think about it. See, this is multi-axial. It can move in any direction. See, ball and socket joint. It can move in any direction, ball and socket joint. Think about this. What about this? Think about this. This can only move like hinge. So, ये क्या कौन सा है? This is uniaxial. Uniaxial. What is the meaning of uniaxial? One axis only. और कोई मूवमेंट है इधर उधर? नहीं. इधर उधर मूवमेंट है? नहीं. Uniaxial. Then this is A. Is translational. Translational. What is the meaning of translational? Translational. See, these are carpals. If you make an angle, ये हाथ रखो आपके बेंच पे, keep over here, और यहाँ पे just push it like this. Make an angle of 30 degree, and यहाँ पे press करो. See, all the 8 carpals they can slide. You can also call it as a gliding joint. But this is translational. Translational. Now, this is biaxial. This is biaxial. क्या? This is, see, carpal. This is carpal and this is metacarpal. This is biaxial. देखो किस तरह से मूवमेंट हो सकता है? Any direction. Okay. Now, let's come into this plane joint. What is plane joint? इसका direction कैसा रहेगा? देखो ऊपर एक structure है. This one the structure which straight away fixes this structure. This is the structure, and this is another bone. This is another bone. But this bone can move in this direction. It can move in this direction. It can move in this direction. Think about it. What are you going to call it as? This is a normal plane joint. This is called as plane joint. Clear? See, ये वाला, this one. This is another bone in the carpal. So they can move. They can move in this direction. इस direction में जा सकता है, इस slide कर सकता है, इस direction में slide कर सकता है. And this is called plane joint. This is called plane joint. Clear? What are plane joints? In plane joints, the articular surfaces are essentially flat and they allow only short gliding. अगर flat नहीं होगा, थोड़ा curve रह जाएगा. Think about this. Hinge joint. यहाँ पे क्या रहेगा? Curve रहेगा. तो एक कर्व के अंदर दूसरा घुस गया यहाँ पे. क्या मटन खाने के समय तो देखते हो आप ना, जब वो लॉन्ग बोन का कार्टिलेज आप खाते हो तो कैसा स्ट्रक्चर है वहां पे? दिस अ कर्व, नो? एंड दैट इज व्हाई दैट कर्व, वो तो फ्लैट नहीं है. ओवर हियर इन फ्लैट बोन्स, इन प्लेन जॉइंट्स, दे हैव गॉट अ फ्लैट सरफेस एंड दैट्स व्हाई इट कैन ग्लाइड. फ्लैट सरफेस, इसलिए ये और एक बोन है, इट कैन ग्लाइड ओवर हियर. सी, थिंक अबाउट इट. They allow short gliding or translational movement. Examples are the gliding joints introduced earlier. The intercarpal. कार्पल खुद के अंदर, 8 कार्पल खुद के अंदर, इंटरकार्पलर. खुद में क्या कर रहे हैं वो? खुद में वो ग्लाइड कर रहे हैं. खुद में क्या कर रहे हैं? खुद में they are gliding among themselves. the intercarpal and intertarsal joints, पैरों में भी वही होता है, and the joints between vertebral articular processes, दो vertebral column के बीच में जो head portion है, that head can also glide, wait, आप लोगों के घर में ये प्रॉब्लम नॉर्मली आ जाता है. दिस इज द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ व्हाट, द वर्टिकल कॉलम. यहां पे क्या रहता है, पेट रहता है, तो यहां पे इंसिजन हो गया, ये वर्टिकल कॉलम है. अब ये वर्टिकल कॉलम यहां पे एक, अब सोचो दे शुड बी अलाइंड, पर अगर इफ दिस वन स्लाइटली बल्जेस आउट, थोड़ा सा स्लाइड कर गया, सो अलाइनमेंट नष्ट हो गया. दिस इज व्हाट हैज हैपेंड. ये होना चाहिए था इस लाइन पे होना चाहिए था, और ये स्लिप करके इधर आ गया. वी कॉल दिस एज अ स्लिप डिस्क. क्या कहते हैं इसको, स्लिप डिस्क. सो वी नो दैट बिटवीन टू वर्टिकल कॉलम व्हाट कम्स आउट, a pair of nerve comes out, the nerve comes out. अगर ये nerve आएगा, nerve is going to have a bulge, the nerve is going to have compression due to the bulging out of the disc bulge. बोलो समझ में आया क्या? So वो flat है, it can slip and we call it slip disc. समझ में आ रहा है क्या? So intervertebral column भी plane है. That does not involve rotation around any axis, and gliding joints are the only examples of non-axial joints. ये gliding joint एक ही example of non-axial, क्योंकि वो सिर्फ आगे पीछे जा सकता है, बट ज्यादा नहीं, बहुत कम. The movement is restricted. The range, देखो हिंज पे कैसा रहेगा, have a look. This is going to happen in hinge. देखो यहाँ पे स्ट्रक्चर, इस स्ट्रक्चर के अंदर ये घुस जाएगा. This particular process is going to come down in this structure. Just like this. देखो ये यहां पे गैप है, and this is going to get inside this. और कैसे मूवमेंट होगा, ऐसे आगे पीछे. Got the idea? यहां क्या फ्लैट सरफेस है? No. So we are going to call it as a hinge joint. The movement can be like this only. See, this is hinge joint. What is hinge joint? In hinge joints are cylindrical projections of one bone fits into the trowel-shaped surface and on another. Motion is along a single plane. देखो single plane में motion होगा, and resembles that of a mechanical hinge. The uniaxial hinge joints permit flexion and extension only, typified by bending and straightening the elbow and interphalangeal joints. What is interphalangeal joint? बोलो. Interphalangeal, inside the phalanges. You can only see inside the phalanges. क्या hinge हो रहा है ना? और जा रहा है इधर, इन दोनों के बीच में ये phalanges है. इन दोनों के बीच में किस तरह का मूवमेंट है, देखो ये, ठीक है. अब देखो ये रहा, ये इधर जाएगा, हिंज है नहीं है. सो इंटरफैलेंजियल जॉइंट्स आर आल्सो हिंज जॉइंट. आयुष, आर यू गेटिंग मी? टेल मी व्हाट इज पाइवॉट. पाइवॉट मतलब मैं आपको क्या बोला था, एटलस और एक्सिस के बारे में, बट ओवर हियर कुछ अलग कहानी है. कहानी क्या है, ये क्या है, दिस इज रेडियस एंड दिस इज आल्ना. रेडियस एंड आल्ना. देखो ये स्ट्रक्चर, ये बोन है, और ये क्या है, व्हाट इज दिस? टेल मी द कनेक्शन बिटवीन बोन टू बोन. नेम द कनेक्टिव टिश्यू व्हिच कनेक्ट्स टू बोन्स टुगेदर. लिगामेंट. BLB. बोन टू बोन इज कनेक्टेड बाय लिगामेंट. नाउ दिस इज लिगामेंट, पूरा इंसर्ट करके लिखा है, एंड दिस इज द बोन. रेडियस एंड आल्ना ऑल्सो पाइवॉट्स. सर कैसे? देखो ऐसे मूव कर रहे हो, करो ऐसे. देखो ये पाइवटिंग कर रहा है, ये खुद में फिक्स्ड है. बोथ ऑफ देम आर फिक्स्ड अमंग देमसेल्व्स, बट दे आर पाइवटिंग. थोड़ा सा पाइवट कर रहा है. बट द बेस्ट एग्जांपल ऑफ पाइवटिंग इज व्हाट? एटलस एंड एक्सिस. दिस इज एटलस एंड एक्सिस, द बेस्ट एग्जांपल ऑफ पाइवट. देखो ऐसा रहता है, किस तरह मूवमेंट हो रहा है, देखो इधर और इधर. दिस इज द मूवमेंट. दैट इज व्हाई यू आर एबल टू डू दिस. क्लियर? पाइवटिंग. तो ये पाइवट हो गया, इधर घूम रहा है. कीप इट लाइक दिस. यहां पे हेड रख दो, हो रहा है मूवमेंट. C1 and C2, atlas and axis. Pivot joint. In a pivot joint, the rounded end of one bone protrudes into the sleeve or ring composed of bone and possibly ligaments of another. देखा? The only movement allowed is a uniaxial rotation of one bone around its own long axis. An example is the joint between the atlas and dens of the axis, which allows you to move your head from side to side. Side to side indicates no. Indicates what? No. Another is the proximal radio-ulnar joint. देखा आ गया radio और ulna के बीच में, where the head of the radius rotates within a ring-like ligament secured to the ulna. Ring-like ligament. देखा ना अभी? Ring-like ligament. Ayushi, you got it? This is ring-like ligament. This is ring-like ligament which holds the what? Ulna. Is connected from radius. चलो next pivot हो गया. Next is what? Condyloid joint. Condyloid joint. ये देखो condyloid joint. देखो phalanges के बीच में, देखो ये कब घुस गया इसके अंदर. Condyloid joint का हाल क्या है देखो. There is a gap present over here. इस gap के अंदर this portion can insert और कैसे घूमेगा? Gap के अंदर fix हो जाएगा. So this is the gap और यहाँ पे suture है, इस gap के अंदर घुस जाएगा. What is this? This is for what? Phalanges? ये क्या है? Phalanges है. तो देखो किस तरह का मूवमेंट हो सकता है यहाँ पे. डायरेक्शन देखो, एरो देखो, आगे पीछे, साइडवर्ड्स हो सकता है, नहीं हो सकता है. आर यू गेटिंग मी? व्हाई दिस स्ट्रक्चर इज बीइंग गिवन? सो ये जो स्ट्रक्चर है, ये ऐसे ऐसे मूव कर सकता है, ये इस तरफ मूव कर सकता है. दिस इज व्हाट in case of phalanges it can show condyloid joints. So this is condyloid joint. In condyloid joint or ellipsoidal joint, the oval articular surface of one bone fits into a complementary depression in another. वैसे ही स्ट्रक्चर में क्या डिप्रेशन होगा, complementary structure रहेगा. The important characteristics of both articulating surfaces are oval. The biaxial condyloid joints permit all angular motions, that is flexion and extension, abduction and adduction. What is flexion and extension? What is flexion? आप पैर ऐसे खड़े रहो और पीछे की तरफ आप काफ मसल्स को ले रहे हो, ये क्या कर रहे हो आप? फ्लेक्शन. ये दिस इज फ्लेक्शन. ये क्या है? एक्सटेंशन. सो फंक्शन कैसा है? ऑपोजिट, एंटागोनिस्टिक. द एब्डक्शन एंड एडक्शन. व्हाट इज एब्डक्शन? हाथ ऊपर. एडक्शन. क्लियर? नाउ थिंक अबाउट इट. Circumduction. The radiocarpal wrist joints and the metacarpophalangeal knuckle joints are typical condyloid joints. Metacarpophalangeal. What is meta? Metacarpal and carpals. Metacarpal and carpals. So this is what? Condyloid joint. Condyloid joint. ये क्या है? Saddle joint. ये क्या है? Saddle joint. देखो स्ट्रक्चर देखो. Have a look. इस स्ट्रक्चर को देखो. ये एक बोन है एंड दिस इज अनदर बोन. सिर्फ मूवमेंट कैसे हो सकता है देखो. ये स्ट्रक्चर इट कैन ओनली ग्लाइड लाइक दिस. सी, इसके अंदर इधर पीछे आगे पीछे आगे पीछे, थोड़ा सा इस तरह भी मूव कर सकता है, थोड़ा सा इस तरह मूव कर सकता है. थिंक अबाउट इट. व्हाट इज दिस? कार्पल, मेटाकार्पल, कार्पल, मेटाकार्पल. दिस इज एग्जांपल ऑफ सैडल जॉइंट. एग्जांपल ऑफ सैडल जॉइंट. इसी सैडल जॉइंट को हम क्या बोल रहे थे? टेल मी. आई हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट सैडल जॉइंट बट मेंशन नहीं किया. diminutive ball and socket joint. saddle joint other name is diminutive ball and socket joint. अभी मैंने बोला था आपको diminutive ball and socket joint is saddle joint. So saddle joints resembles condyloid joints but they allow greater freedom of movement. इसका freedom और ज़्यादा है. Each articular surface has both concave and convex areas, that is it is shaped like a saddle. The articular surfaces then fit together, concave to convex surfaces. Clear-cut examples of saddle joints in the body are the carpo-metacarpal joints of the thumbs, and the movements allowed by these joints are clearly demonstrated by twiddling your thumbs. Okay, and this is the best example. You know, this is ball and socket joint, otherwise called as plane joint. Ball and socket joint में क्या होगा? There is a structure, or is this particular structure head is going to get inside this cavity. What is this cavity called? The cavity in case of hand is called glenoid cavity. The cavity inside in case of pelvic girdle is called acetabulum cavity. It's very very important. What is common in both of this cavity? Presence of synovial fluid. क्या है इसके अंदर? Synovial fluid is present over there. Synovial fluid is present over there. Okay. Okay. Synovial fluid is present over there. Okay, Himanish, it's good to see you. You are joining the class? Yes, clear? So this is the head. So it's going to articulate within this ball and socket joint. How many ball and socket joint in human body? 4. So ball and socket joints, the spherical or hemispherical head of one bone articulates with a cup-like socket of another. These joints are multi-axial. It can move in any direction. That's why they are called plane joint. multi-axial. You can move it like this, you can move it like this. Think about the ball, you know, उनका सुबह से लेकर एक ही काम रहता है. पहले वो सुबह उठकर क्या करते हैं, इसका एक्सरसाइज करते हैं. They rotate this, fine. And freely movable synovial joint. Universal movement is allowed, that is in all axes and planes, including rotation. The shoulder, hip joints are examples of it. Shoulder and hip joints are examples of what? Ball and socket. That's all about joints. The last topic about this chapter is about the disorders. So how many disorders have been given in your book? The first disorder, I think, muscle disorder and bone disorder being given together. थोड़ा उसको separate करो. पहला है arthritis. Tell me, arthritis. ये arthritis we are going to classify into 3 types. We are going to classify arthritis into 3 types. So bone disorder. Bone disorder. Fine. So we can classify arthritis. Itis मतलब क्या है? What is the meaning of the term itis? Itis means, you know, it's inflammation. Itis means inflammation. So inflammation of arthro means what? Arthrology. Inflammation of joint is called arthrology. Inflammation of joint is called inflammation of joint is called arthritis. अब ये inflammation arthritis 3 तरह से होता है. The first one is arthritis. We can classify it in 3 different types. The first one is rheumatoid arthritis. नाम सुना आपने? हाँ, rheumatoid arthritis आपने ये सुना. Osteoarthritis आपने सुन लिया. Osteoarthritis, I think you have heard it. Osteo means bone and the joint. That means they are present where? In your knee. Fine. So वहाँ पे बंगाल में क्या कहते हैं? बातेर व्यथा. Osteoarthritis. Now rheumatoid arthritis is also a type of arthritis, but that is due to autoimmune disorder. Autoimmune disease का best example है rheumatoid arthritis. Autoimmune disease durva. What happens in autoimmune disease? The cells are going to start killing their cells. मतलब पास वाला सेल neighborhood cells को मारना स्टार्ट कर देगा, considering them to be alien. Foreign invader सोचेगा, उसको मारना स्टार्ट कर देगा. So they fail to recognize the closest cell and consider them to be what? Invaders. और उसको मारना स्टार्ट कर देगा. That is called autoimmunity. So rheumatoid arthritis का कोई ट्रीटमेंट नहीं रहता है because it's an autoimmune disease. Is the example of autoimmune disease. Class 12 में आप पढ़ोगे. You have to study the same autoimmune disease. Fine. The killer T cells starts killing their own cells because autoimmune disorder only occurs when there is a suppression of the activity of suppressor T cell. We want to talk about what are suppressor T cell, what are memory T cells, what are helper T cells, what are killer T cells. Fine. Autoimmune disease होने का कारण क्या है? Suppressor T cell काम करना बंद कर देगा, तो they are not going to be helping the killer T cells to decide किसको मारना है. Killer T cells का काम क्या है? सिर्फ मारना. अब ये एक इंडियन सोल्जर है, वो उस तरफ पाकिस्तान की तरफ वो बंदूक उठा के खड़ा है, उसका काम है मारना, ट्रिगर दबा के रखना, और ट्रिगर दबाते दबाते वो इंडिया की तरफ हो जा रहा है. जब हो जा रहा है सप्रेसर टी सेल बोला अरे इधर, और सप्रेसर टी सेल सो गया, घूमते मारते किस तरफ हो गया, उसका बंदूक का एंगल हो गया इंडियन की तरफ, मारना स्टार्ट कर दिया ना. ये ऑटोइम्यून डिसऑर्डर है. किसको मार रहा है? सेल्स को, खुद के सेल्स को. ऑटोइम्यून आर्थराइटिस है. व्हेन आई वांट टू टीच यू कॉल्ड केमिकल कोऑर्डिनेशन एंडोक्राइन सिस्टम, वहां पे वन ऑफ द डिजीज ऑफ थायराइड प्रॉब्लम, हाइपोसिक्रेशन ऑफ थायरॉक्सिन के कारण एक डिजीज होता है, उसका नाम है हाशीमोटोज डिजीज. जापान में वन ऑफ द लेडी गॉट अफेक्टेड बाय दिस डिजीज नेम्ड हकारू हाशीमोटो. एंड वो क्या हुआ था? थायराइड सेल्स के खुद वाले सेल्स, नॉर्मल थायराइड सेल्स, खुद के थायराइड सेल्स को सोचने स्टार्ट कर दिया कि ये बाहर से आया है, उसको मारना स्टार्ट कर दिया. एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज कॉल्ड हाशीमोटो डिजीज, आल्सो एन एग्जांपल ऑफ ऑटोइम्यून डिसऑर्डर. ऑस्टियोआर्थराइटिस मतलब क्या होगा? ऑस्टियोआर्थराइटिस में व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन टू इन ऑस्टियोआर्थराइटिस? इन ऑस्टियोआर्थराइटिस ये अगर 2 बोन है, बोन के बीच में क्या रहता है? कार्टिलेज रहता है. व्हाट हैपेंस? कार्टिलेज फंक्शंस एज व्हाट? इट एक्ट्स एज अ पैड. It acts as a pad. It protects the 2 bones to come in contact with each other and prevents friction. अगर फ्रिक्शन होगा तो बहुत पेनफुल होगा. पर यहाँ पे और कुछ रहता है. What remains over here? There is a fluid filled cavity. Come on. What is the name of the fluid? साइनोवियल फ्लूइड. क्या नाम है इसका? साइनोवियल फ्लूइड. अगर ये साइनोवियल फ्लूइड घट गया, it reduces in amount, साइनोवियल फ्लूइड घट गया, and the cartilage also erodes off. Cartilage भी erode हो गया. What is going to happen? There will be friction and there will be huge pain. This is osteoarthritis. This is osteoarthritis. There is another one. अगर दो बोन के बीच में कुछ क्रिस्टल लाइक स्ट्रक्चर्स, आकर बाइंड हो गए, तो ये क्रिस्टल्स क्या करेंगे? इट्स गोइंग टू मेक प्रॉब्लम. नर्व में पेन आएगा, एंड दीज क्रिस्टल्स आर यूरिक एसिड क्रिस्टल्स. टेल मी व्हाट इज द कंडीशन? दिस कंडीशन इज कॉल्ड गाउटी आर्थराइटिस. GOUT. आई थिंक बुक में गाउट है गाउट. यूरिक एसिड क्रिस्टल्स या गाउटी आर्थराइटिस है. It is also called as gouty arthritis, where the uric acid crystals get deposited in the joints. समझ में आया क्या? This is called gouty arthritis. So 3 types of disorder we have talked about the bones. Any other disorder I don't think they have talked about. What is the other topic? Osteoarthritis? Arthritis? No, that is we have talked about in muscles. Myasthenia gravis is an example of muscle disorder. Myasthenia gravis किसको हुआ है? बच्चन को. माइस्थेनिया ग्रेविस. देखो नर्व डिजेनरेशन है, देखो वहां पे. इट ऑकर्स ड्यू टू व्हाट? नर्व मोटर एक्टिविटी बंद हो जाएगा, कम होगा. न्यूरोमस्कुलर जंक्शंस में मोटर एक्टिविटी कम होगा नर्व डिजेनरेशन के कारण. सो सी दैट इज वी हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट इन द लास्ट वेरी क्लास माइस्थेनिया ग्रेविस. उसके बाद आई थिंक हंटिंगटन्स कोरिया हैज बीन गिवन, नहीं है? और क्या है? muscular dystrophy is being given. Tetany we have talked about. Tetany is what? Lockjaw. It can also occur. Name of bacteria. Tell me the name of the bacteria. No, bacteria का नाम क्या है? Clostridium tetani. Sometimes it can cause this tetanus. So that's all about. So muscles we have already covered. We have talked about all this disorders of muscles, and just now we have covered the disorders of bones. With this, I think we can call that this chapter is over. Clear? Any doubt you can ask me. कोई doubt है? Very good. So can we consider कि ये complete हो गया? So what we have covered in this whole chapter? Just I'm helping you with some of our decapitulation. Babu, just tell me, question answer session हो जाए. What is the study of movement and locomotion? Kinesiology. Study of movement and locomotion is kinesiology. Fine? Now, for movement and locomotion, how many organs are required? Two not organs. Two of the one is muscle, which is part of the mesodermal area, and one is bone. So what is the study of muscle called? Sarcology or myology. The study of muscle is called sarcology or myology. How many types of muscles are there? Basically we can classify them into 3 different types: skeletal, non-skeletal, and cardiac. What is so special in cardiac muscles? Cardiac muscles refractive period is very, very prolonged, and that's why cardiac muscles never gets fatigued. Fine. What is refractive period? The time gap the muscle needs to regain the lost energy which occurred due to contraction, because during contraction ATP is needed. So cardiac muscles get a huge amount of time to regain that lost energy due to one beat, and that's why cardiac muscles never gets fatigued. कितना अच्छा होता ना अगर cardiac muscles से पूरा बॉडी बनता, है ना? कोई फैटिगनेस नहीं आता. अच्छा होता? अच्छा नहीं होता. सबका ही ऐसा हो जाता, सबको नीट में चांस मिल जाता. प्रॉब्लम हो जाता ना. ओके. अच्छा, टेल मी व्हाई skeletal muscles gets fatigue sooner? Because the refractive period of skeletal muscle is the shortest. Okay. What is so very important is about the characteristics of these 3 bones, of 3 muscles. Skeletal muscles, which are also called as voluntary, striped, and striated. They are striped due to the presence of myofilaments in the form of actin and myosin. There are 2 myofilaments. Also, if you remember, I have talked about the first muscle, then muscle bundle, then muscle fiber, then myofilaments. And we have talked about the outer covering of that. Do you remember that? The outermost covering is epimysium, perimysium, endomysium. Okay. we have to remember also about the sarcoplasmic reticulum present inside the muscle cells. The function of sarcoplasmic reticulum, which is nothing but endoplasmic reticulum, their main function is to store calcium. So when they are going to release calcium, when there is a threshold stimulus and in the motor end plate or the neuromuscular junction, there is a secretion of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is going to excite the sarcoplasmic reticulum to secrete calcium. The calcium is going to come down to the muscle cells through the T tubules, and those calcium will be taken up by troponin. How many parts of troponin we have talked about? There are 3 units of troponin. TNC, troponin C, troponin I and troponin T. TNC is going to catch hold of calcium ion. The moment they are going to catch hold of calcium ion, they will be changing some conformational change in tropomyosin. And tropomyosin, which is connected with the actin filament, is going to help the myosin head come in contact with the actin filament. So myosin binds, actin binding site is going to bind with the actin, and ATP is going to come. So there will be cross bridge between actin and myosin. ATP is going to be required in the ATP binding site, and they are going to help in ratchet power stroke. They are going to push the actin filament close together and reduce the gap of the H zone, which ultimately occurs due to muscle contraction. So due to muscle contraction, the Z line, the gap between 2 Z line decreases, H zone reduces, but the M line remains in its position. This is called sliding filament mechanism. We have talked about physical changes and chemical changes. Physical changes, the sliding filament mechanism was given by Huxley, and chemical events was given by Albert Zent Georgi in the year 1942. We have talked about all this. If you have missed it, just check it out in the earlier videos. Okay? This is about muscles and the muscle contraction. And there is a Cody cycle in the chemical changes. We have talked about Cody cycle. It is by the help of the Cody cycle that what we can get is carbon dioxide from the lactic acid and carbon dioxide and water, and also we can get back the glycogen between muscle and liver. This occurs, Cody cycle occurs. Okay, so that was about muscles. And about bones, we have classified everything. We have talked about the internal section of the bones. We have talked about lamellae, where we have got, in the lamellae we have got osteocyte cells. Osteocyte cells, along with the osteocyte cells, we have got osteoblast cells, which secretes osteoid and help the cartilage change into bones by mineralization or calcification. Clear? We have also talked about the balance of calcium level in the body. What is the normal calcium level in the blood? 9 to 11 milligram per 100 ml of blood. 9 to 11 milligram per 100 ml of blood. And this normal blood calcium level is maintained by 2 of the hormones. Tell me the name. What is secreted from thyroid gland? Named calcitonin. And the one which balances this? Secreted from parathyroid gland. And the example is PTH, parathyroid hormone. These two helps in the what? The balance of calcium. You have missed this video, just check it out. Clear? So this is how your blood calcium level is maintained. So blood के अंदर calcium कहाँ से आता है? What is the source of calcium? Bone. So bone से निकालने को क्या कहते हैं? Resorption of calcium. सुन रहे हैं? वो कौन करेगा? From bones calcium को निकालने का काम किसका है? पैराथायराइड हार्मोन का काम PTH इज गोइंग टू टेक आउट. फाइन. और बोन के अंदर, ब्लड से बोन के अंदर जाएगा कहाँ से? फ्रॉम कैल्सिटोनिन. एनी इश्यूज विद दिस? चेक इट आउट. अच्छा, ये हो गया बोन्स के बारे में. एंड देन वी हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट ऑल द स्केलेटल सिस्टम पार्ट्स एंड ऑल द टाइप्स ऑफ बोन्स. very important for your NEET is about thorax. How many pairs of screw ribs, false ribs and floating ribs? Fine, this is important. The skull bones are important. Then vertebral column bones are important. In vertebral column bone, we have got 26 bones, and the formula is very important. C7, T12, L5, S1, under bracket 5, coccyx 1, under bracket 4. So, that is it. And then we have talked about joints today. We have completed all the different types of joints along with the what? Bone disorders. With this chapter is completely over. So next day what we are going to do? We are going to start with the next chapter. Fine? That's all for today. Ciao.